guys, it's Rachel and today I'm going to be filming for you guys a June and July wrap-up. I have not been reading enough to justify filming a specific June wrap-up and a specific July wrap-up, so I figured that I would let you guys know everything that I've read between June and July. And to be quite honest with you guys, it is only 5 things, so it's not anything like an amazing wrap-up, but I am still excited to share with you guys what I have read. I will start for what I started with in June, and I will finish with what I finished in July. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So the very first book that I completed in June is going to be The Fireman by Joe Hill. This is Joe Hill's most recent work, and this was actually sent to me by William Moreau or HarperCollins as I requested it for them, and I was incredibly grateful that they sent it to me, considering Joe Hill is one of my all-time favorite authors. This is, like I said, his most recent work, but I will say that unfortunately this is not my favorite work by him. I will still say hands down Nosferatu is my favorite book by Joe Hill, but I will say that I'm going to start with Joe Hill. I would not start with The Fireman. I would probably start with something like Heart-Shaped Box or 20th Century Ghosts, just to kind of give you a feel for his writing style, because I don't really think that this necessarily fits Joe Hill's usual writing style. But at any rate, this book is got a lot of characters. It's very long. It's 747 pages, and this follows a bunch of different characters, but the main setting is going to be that there is this like plague, spore, some type of thing that people essentially are burning up from within. They're essentially spontaneously combusting, and things kind of go crazy. The world is kind of going crazy. People are getting corralled. There are being mass murders happening of these people that contract the spore. They're coming. It's very contagious. And then there is one main character called the Fireman who somehow learns to control the fire, the spore, and whatnot. And then, like I said, it follows also a multitude of different characters, namely one named Harper, and Harper is a nurse who contracts the spore as well, and she ends up becoming pregnant, and she decides that she wants to live and survive so that she can bring the baby to term, because she has heard that if you have a baby, that the baby will not have the spore. So that's what's kind of following. It's unfortunately, like I said, if you read the synopsis for The Fireman, I don't really think that it captures what is actually happening in this book. This book is a lot less about the fireman himself than I expected, but it's still good. It's still really engrossing. I finished it within a couple of days, it being such a massive book. I would still recommend this to anybody who's a big fan of Joe Hill, although, like I said, this would not be the first book that I would read by Joe Hill. It's very long, but it's really good. I still really enjoyed it. I just don't think that it is his best work in my opinion. I think I ended up giving this about a 3.754 stars. Next thing that I was super excited to read that was not actually a book is going to be Saga Volume 6 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is the 6th installment in the Saga series. This should not be any surprise to anybody. I'm sure most people have heard of Saga, but I am pretty far into the series by now. I've started pre-ordering the copies. I loved it. I love Saga. This one, well, it really made me happy because of things that happened in this one. I'm enjoying how the story takes on so many like family dynamics, so many family issues, but still has that really neat like space opera type thing going on. If you don't know what Saga is about, it essentially follows two different people. One is from the moon and one is from another world, something like that, and they fall in love, which is forbidden, and they end up having a child, and this child is a mixed child, and people essentially want them dead, so they are on the run. At this point in the story, it's so exciting seeing what's going on, seeing people reuniting, seeing people that you haven't seen in a while, just seeing different things happening. I really love this one. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next thing that I read is going to be Sex Criminals Volume 3 by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. This is the 3rd volume of Sex Criminals, although I had already read all the single trades that made up Sex Criminals before I had pre-ordered the actual trade itself. Unfortunately, I did not enjoy this. This is my least favorite installment in the graphic novel series, and I'm actually probably going to stop reading them now. I don't think that they're enjoyable anymore. I think that the story is taking an odd turn, and I also thought that it was very weird that there were certain areas in here where they plugged in different characters that we had never seen before for like maybe their own like story arc, but I did not enjoy it. I really enjoyed the first trade. I was okay with the second trade, but this one just was not for me. Like I said, I don't know that I'm going to continue with the series. This is a very adult series. I mean, Saga is also very adult, but this one itself, I mean, Sex Criminals, is very adult. This essentially follows these two people that when they come to orgasm, that they find out that they can stop time, and so they decide to rob a bank, and then from there on, you start to find out that there are other people that have these abilities that whenever they orgasm, it says very adult, very mature content. There's a lot of sex, which is not a problem for me. I don't have any problems reading sex. I think that at this point in the story, I just am not enjoying it anymore. Unfortunately, I still really like the artwork. The artwork is pretty neat. I unfortunately really can't show you any of the artwork because it's very raunchy, but like I said, I'm not really enjoying this anymore, so I don't think I'm going to be continuing with this. I give this a 2 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was a book that I was actually super excited for, and I really wanted to read it, so I picked it up, and that's going to be The Girls by Emma Cline. Now, this one got like mad hype. There was a lot of people talking about this in the literary world. This was nominated for a lot of book prizes, and I think I heard Max from On the Book saying that she got like a 6-figure or a 7-figure advance for writing this book. So there was like a massive hype train on this book, so I really wanted to read it, but the premise itself really intrigued me, so I went ahead and picked it up. It follows a young girl named Evie Boyd, and she is 14 years old, and she's at a very vulnerable age in her life. Her parents are absolutely horrible people, her friends are horrible friends, and she is extremely vulnerable, and she is just looking for some kind of acceptance. One day she is at this like barbecue, and she happens to see these girls walking, and she's immediately drawn to them, and through them she finds this world, this ranch, this cult that is kind of reminiscent of the ranch from the Charles Manson story, or so if you are familiar with the Manson murders and whatnot. So she kind of gets wrapped up in the world of this cult, and you're following along her naivety, her vulnerability, her just wanting to fit in. And unfortunately, this story, it struck different chords with me, though it was not my favorite book. The writing was amazing. I love the writing. This is a very accessible read, because sometimes I find that when I'm reading literary fiction or more like fiction, adult fiction type stories, that can be very dense, the writing can be very flowery, and it takes me a long time to get into. And for this one though, Emma Cline did an excellent job of making it very accessible. She did an excellent job of making you being able to get into the story and just getting wrapped up in the story. But for me, the story itself was lacking. It was very disgusting, to be completely honest with you. It was so many things happening to this girl, and her just in my head being almost protective of her and thinking to myself, these are horrible people, and you are just letting this happening because you are just so wanting acceptance from somebody, and it killed me. Also because I have my own personal experiences with a cult-like situation, and so this one really like struck a chord with me as far as that goes. This is not, if you're looking for a book that has to do with like the murders itself, like a cult, like if you're looking for a book that has to do with the Manson murders, even though this is not about the Manson murders, but there is murder in here, this is not about the murders itself. This is not about the trial. This is about a young girl coming to age, learning, trying to find acceptance, trying to find somebody who will care for her, trying to find a friend, and finding it in the wrong places. This is essentially what this is. It goes back and forth in time, so she's speaking as a 14-year-old and speaking of it as an adult. and different things as an adult trigger her thinking back on whenever she was 14 years old. I will say that if you're going to read this, it is very mature. There is very suggestive content in here. There is definitely a lot of sexual references. There's also a trigger warning for pretty much rape. And so if you are bothered by any of that, I would not read this story. I think it's an important book to learn about how naive and how vulnerable you can be at such a young age, but just be aware that there's very adult content in the story. In the end, I gave this about a 3.75 out of 5 stars. And then finally, the last thing that I read, it is worth mentioning that I read The Girls at the beginning of July, and the last thing that I read in July is going to be The Walled City by Ryan Grodin. Now, this was a very random read for me, a very random pickup for me. I have tons of books that I want to read, and for some reason, I just picked this one up. It could be because I watched a wrap-up by Shannon from The Leaning Lights, and she had recently read this one, and for some reason I just thought I want to read this book. I did not enjoy this as much as I had hoped to. It's very easy to get into. It's dark and it's gritty, I will say that, but it is not something that, you know, it's not my favorite book of all time, but it was definitely something fun to read if you want a dark storyline. This pretty much follows 3 different characters in this city called the Walled City, which is based on an actual walled city that I don't have a whole lot of like historical background on. So if you're interested, I will link down below like a Wikipedia page for the Walled City. But pretty much this follows 3 main characters, a young boy named Dai, and 2 girls named May and Jin. And Dai is pretty much holds a secret, and he is trying to get into this brothel of sorts, and he is trying you don't know his storyline yet until you're getting towards the end and trying to see his life. You also follow Jin, who is looking for something she has lost, and you follow Mai, who is a prostitute who was sold by her dad in this brothel, and how their stories connect, how Dai himself brings Jin and May together, and you kind of see how everything connects. Like I said, this is a very it's very dark, it's very gritty. It you go pretty deep into the world of prostitution, the world of thieves, the world of vagrancy, things like that. It's not explicit, it is not mature. She's not going into sex at all, really. I mean, you know what's happening, but she's not really talking about it. So I could say that this is something that anybody can pretty much read, but it is dark, and I enjoyed that about it. I didn't really care. I mean, I cared about Dai's storyline, and I cared about Jin's storyline, but I didn't really care about May's storyline, which makes me feel kind of bad because I think she kind of had it the worst, being that she was sold in prostitution. But overall, I did enjoy this book. I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It made me really eager to read her other story, which is Wolf by Wolf, which I also own. So I'm really interested in reading that one to see if I enjoy it. But yeah, I definitely would recommend this if you want something dark and gritty and you want something that has a really interesting historical take. So yes, those are all of the things that I've read between June and July. If you've read anything, let me know down below. And you can also let me know what you have read this month, or you can link me to your wrap-ups if you have any. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for commenting, liking, and subscribing, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.